No, Dan noted what a simpler time it seemed to be before the pandemic. So thank you for that note. Those of you who are here with children today, I want to tell you that your children are a precious gift with us, and they are welcome here. And part of our rebuilding process is we're working towards having a staffed nursery, and our religious education classes will begin meeting in person again on September 18th. So hang in there with us. There's a phenomenon that many of you here have likely experienced. The term temporary autonomous zone was coined by the poet, activist, author, and Sufi scholar Hakim Bey. Just going to know, you're in a temporary autonomous zone right now. There are places where a community of people temporarily comes together and flourishes by experiencing and embracing values counter to those of the dominant culture. Any of you who have participated in things like a Black Lives Matter protest, the Occupy movement, or a flash mob have experienced a temporary autonomous zone. The same is true if you've ever been to a program at the Mountain Retreat and Learning Center or any of our other Unitarian Universalist camps and conference centers. The community exists for a brief point in time, and those who participate are transformed by the experience. I know I've heard testimony from many of you who've been transformed by experiences at the mountain, and hopefully those same experiences here. Temporary autonomous zones are different from utopian or intentional communities. They are not experiments in perfecting new ways of living, but experiments in showing us that alternative ways are possible. Temporary autonomous zones are places to experiment with and experience new ways of being human together, where one can be for something, not just against. The experience can be transformative in that it awakens new possibilities and the freedom to imagine the world the way it could be. In temporary autonomous zones, the rules, norms, and patterns of behavior that govern the community arise out of the community. In other words, a covenant emerges, an agreement about how the community will be in relationship with each other and with the higher purpose or the greater good that the community exists to serve. Covenant is at the core of Unitarian Universalism. It has been said that covenant is the silk that joins Unitarian Universalist congregations, communities, and individuals together in a web of interconnection. The practice of promising to walk and move together is the precious core of our creedless faith. How many of you know the covenant of this congregation? Well, you will when you leave here, okay? This is the covenant of this congregation. This is the covenant that we are in right now. We gather in safe and compassionate community, seeking our spiritual truths. We affirm our interdependence, celebrate our differences, and create a thoughtful and harmonious voice for liberal religion. Through the practice of the principles of our faith, we promote social justice, economic and environmental justice, and continue our legacy of respect and acceptance. We come together in a spirit of love and freedom. Sounds countercultural to me. The most common question that I get about Unitarian Universalism is how it is we can claim to be a religion when we don't all share the same beliefs. And if you are one who proclaims your Unitarian Universalism publicly out in the world, maybe you've been asked that same question. And maybe some of you are wondering that very thing right here today. My response is that Unitarian Universalists are held together by covenant, not creed, held together by common commitments, not common beliefs. Covenant creates a safe container where we can do the authentic work of examining beliefs and systems of belief. As Sophia Lyon-Fahs, the groundbreaking religious educator, notes, it matters what we believe. Fahs put forth a developmental model of religious education that was radical for its time. This was back in the 1950s and 60s. Rather than teaching a prescribed set of beliefs, her vision was to create a nurturing environment where faith and belief grow and change across the lifespan. It's how we embody that idea that revelation is not sealed, that new truth, new insight, new wisdom is always breaking through into our awareness. We're always learning and growing and changing, and so too must our beliefs. For me, the most endearing quality of Unitarian Universalism is that one can change their beliefs and not lose their community. No one need give assent to a creed or a statement of belief to find community with us. It is the power of covenant that makes this kind of radical acceptance of difference in belief possible. Covenant is not about what we believe, it's about how we are together in community. How we create a safe enough container for doing that responsible search for truth and meaning. Or it's, as the English novelist D.H. Lawrence put it, he said, "A person has no religion who has not slowly and painfully gathered one together, adding to it, shaping it. And one's religion is never complete and final, it seems, but must always be undergoing modification." To be in covenanted community means that we do not make this journey alone, but we have faithful companions who promise to walk and move with us in mutual trust and care, a promise to practice ways of being together that are life-affirming. To make a covenant is to make a promise, a sacred agreement. When we are in covenant, we know we belong. And it's been said that belonging is our deepest need. And when we don't belong, we suffer. So in covenant, we move from saying, I can take care of myself, and replace it with, we will take care of each other. One of my favorite things to do at this time of year is to visit the classrooms where our children and youth gather for religious education. And I like to tour the rooms and read the covenants that they have created and put them up on the walls. And the covenants that I have seen and read over the years include everything like just the very basics of classroom behavior and classroom etiquette. They include things like no hitting, no name calling, raising your hand to speak, sharing the toys and putting them away, to more idealistic statements like, we will treat each other with openness, honesty, and respect. Now, for children and youth who've grown up in the congregation and do this every year, it can feel repetitive and like they're saying the same things year to year. But with Covenant, we are always welcoming someone new in. So for somebody who is new, it's important to be included in the process, because a covenant isn't a set of rules handed down from on high, but a mutual agreement made in community. More than words on a paper, a covenant becomes real when it is practiced and put into action in relationship with others. It is by living these covenants and witnessing the adults in the congregation do the same that our children and youth learn what it is to be a Unitarian Universalist. I'm especially looking forward to seeing the covenants they create this year as the children come back together for in-person classroom time here on the church campus, as I said earlier, beginning September 18th. So mark that on your calendar. That'll be an important day to be here to support our children, youth, and their teachers, because they are not the same people they were before the pandemic. They have grown and changed in all the ways that children and youth do, and then some. I'm sure their beliefs about who or what or if God is have changed, along with their beliefs about how to best live their lives in today's world. The adults who serve as teachers and teachers' assistants will be enriched by the journey they will be taking with these young folks. I've taught these young folks before. They ask really good questions, and they think deeply about the big questions of life. So the adults, children, and youth will be learning and growing together. And if this isn't religious, I don't know what is. I think of Unitarian Universalist congregations as interconnected, autonomous zones with qualities that are both enduring and temporary. Enduring in that the institution of the church is handed down from generation to generation. Temporary in that what we do from day to day and week to week changes. Just as we can never step in the same river twice, so it is with the congregation. So take this in right now, because we're never going to be together exactly like this again, right? Because our boundaries are porous, we change each time someone comes in and each time someone leaves. Everything we do at church, every meeting, every class, every covenant group, every choir rehearsal, every workshop, every social justice action, every worship service is like a temporary autonomous zone, a gathering that will never be repeated exactly the same way. And if we do it well, faithful to our covenant and the values we profess, the experience is transformative. People leave awakened to new possibilities for how our world could be. It happens, and it can happen, in finance committee meetings or in covenant groups, at a protest or in a classroom, in a board meeting or in a worship service. The transformation is possible, not so much because of the content, but because in ways that aren't always encouraged in the dominant culture. Being together in ways where leadership, power, and resources are shared, where different perspectives, different beliefs, different life experiences, different voices are listened to and valued. This is the power of covenant. It allows us to step out of the dominant culture, if only for a time, to practice behaviors that foster trusting and caring relationships, to let our guard down enough to truly be ourselves without pretense, to be open enough to hear the voice of wisdom from wherever it may come, to discover the gifts that are present among us and how to best use them in service of a higher purpose and greater good. If this isn't religious, I don't know what is. The short poem Outwitted by Edwin Markham, who was known by some as the poet laureate of universalism in the early 20th century, sums up the challenge of our current time. They drew a circle that shut me out. Heretic rebel, a thing to flout, but love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle and took them in. The dominant culture of our time does draw circles that shut people out, circles that exclude and divide. We can never fully separate ourselves from that dominant culture. It's where we spend most of our daily lives. It's the air we breathe, the water in which we swim, invisible unless we make a conscious effort to see it and feel it. As Unitarian Universalists, we are being challenged to notice the ways the dominant culture makes its way into our rules, norms, and habitual patterns of behavior by the ways we govern ourselves. We are being challenged to draw our circle of inclusion wider. Your beloved community committee is sponsoring a year-long congregation-wide study of widening the circle of concern, which is the report put out by the UUA's Commission on Institutional Change. It has the potential to truly be transformative. It's a comprehensive guide for doing the work we've always longed to be, that beloved land we've always tried to reach, of becoming anti-racist and anti-oppressive within our congregations and in our wider association of congregations. And you've already heard that the program is being kicked off next weekend. It's also a celebration of our coming back together after so much isolation from the pandemic. So it will include a workshop on Saturday and a celebratory picnic on Sunday. And participation in this program is an expression of our interconnection with our sibling Unitarian Universalist congregations across the country who are also doing this work. Ultimately, the work is to make sure to the best of our ability that the temporary autonomous zones that we create here are spaces where vulnerable people won't be harmed in the ways the dominant culture harms them. Spaces for transformative experiences to happen, and where we can experience, even just for a time, not the world just the way it is, but to experience the world the way it could be. This is religious work, the work of covenant, the work of intentionally creating the rules, norms, and practices by which we govern ourselves. To intentionally create those in ways that free us and transform us to imagine the world as it could be, and then live our way into that world. If this isn't religious, I don't know what is. Indeed, it is the heart and core of our Unitarian Universalist faith. May it be so, and may we make it so through our living.